situation in Christian Europe was a little bit difficult. There was a large, powerful empire, the Ottoman Turkish Empire, mostly Muslim, which was expanding westward across the Mediterranean, invading Europe, trying to take over Western European, Christian European lands and powers. It was making a lot of progress. It was a powerful empire. And added to that was a problem in Europe itself. The Protestant Reformation had begun. The conflicts between Christians had led to wars, civil wars, international wars. So all of Christian Europe was divided and fighting amongst themselves, and so very weakened. Add to that two other ingredients. At the time, or near the time that the feast was installed, the great Venetian fleet, one of the most powerful naval fleets in the world, had been devastated by a horrible fire. And a plague was spreading throughout the peninsula of Italy. So we're in kind of a dire situation in 1571. Things are not looking good. Well, Pope St. Pius V understood the difficult situation. He also understood the seriousness of the threat posed by the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And so he worked some brilliant diplomacy along with some powerful prayer, and he was able to put together an international fleet of Catholics, of Christian soldiers, that was going to engage the Turkish fleet, which was trying to expand to the west, to take over the Western Mediterranean, to engage them in a battle, try and halt the onslaught of this aggressive empire. So he created the fleet, and the battle was the battle ended up taking place on October 7th in the year 1571. Now, as the fleet was brought together and then sent into battle, the Pope had arranged for all the different Catholic communities throughout Western Europe to offer special prayers that day, that God would defend the Christians and defend Christian Europe from this invasion and give victory to the Christian ships. And he had especially asked the Christians to pray the Rosary. And so all throughout Europe on the first Sunday of October in 1571, there were rosary processions and solemn rosaries prayed. Individuals, communities, religious communities, entire towns and cities were praying to the Lord for protection against the invasion, for protection in the battle. Well, the day dawned, and the two fleets engaged in a harbor called Lepanto on the coast of Greece. And as the sun came up over the harbor, Don Juan of Austria, who was the head of the Christian fleet, gave the signal for battle by raising a flag on his mast, which showed an embroidered crucifix. The flag had been given to him by the Pope himself. As soon as the flag went up, it was the signal to begin, and all the Christians in the 100 ships that had gathered went on their knees and prayed for victory. They were outnumbered 3-1, so that's one of the reasons the Pope had asked all the Christians to pray. The battle began as the sun came up, and that day in Rome, the Pope was in meetings with his cardinals, and the day went on, and during the early afternoon, in the middle of his meetings, he got up from the table, went over to the window, opened the shutters, and gazed out into the sky for a moment. And then he looked back in, closed the shutters, went over to his cardinals and said, he adjourned the meeting, and he said, "Now is no time for business. It's time to give thanks to God, who has given victory to the arms of the Christians." He had been given miraculous knowledge of the victory indeed that had been won almost equally miraculously of the Christians against the Ottoman Turks. And in honor of that victory, Pope St. Pius V established this feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, which was originally